Welcome to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Jen Du Plessis, and in this dynamic series, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and victories of entrepreneurs who have turned their passion into success. Welcome. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Here we are just kind of having a little chit chat, me and Christie Ruffino. Did I pronounce that right? Ruffino or Ruffino?
Perfect, just like the wine.
Ruffino. Okay. And so Christie and I are just sitting here chit chatting, and we're so excited to share with you today a lot of information about I'm going to say it my way, prioritizing your purpose, because I think you say prioritize your purpose, but
Profitizing your purpose.
Profitizing your purpose. And I want to talk about your history because, obviously this was something that you had a challenge with, because we all know that our mess becomes our message, right? That you had a challenge with in the past, and then talk about why this is so important to have purpose in business as we're talking here on Business on the Vine. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Christie, that got you to the point where you wanted to share your story.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jen. I'm really excited to be on the show. We're going to have fun. Oh, gosh, it's been 14 years ago now that somebody asked me to share my story. And as an introvert, I'm like, no, I don't want to share my story. And then I thought, well, who really cares about my story, right? Because I think sometimes as women, I know, men are a little different, but as women, we just put our heads down and do what we have to do. But I basically came out of a really, really messy divorce, very financial, tough situation, near bankruptcy, to then go on and build a successful business, a networking organization that ended up by growing to be national. And this mentor of mine connected me with a publisher, and she wanted me to share my story in a co-authored book. Right. And so when I did say yes, I realized how beneficial that was for me personally to get my story out there, and how it was great for me as a business owner to have my story out to connect on a deeper level with my clients and attract the people, right? Attract the right people. And so that's what got me on this mission of story. I've been helping people share their story for about 12 years now. And that's one of the things that really just kind of like just an overall summary, I really got excited about that process, but then I got really frustrated because so many of these women that realized their best became their mission or their message, they didn't know what to do next. And so that's kind of what I focus on now, is helping them profitize that.
Yeah. As you're telling your story, about how that transpired, I had something very similar. I wore this armor because my father was an alcoholic, and we were the poorest in the family, that kind of thing. So I wore this armor. And so I didn't really tell anybody about my story. And then I was asked to speak at this thing one time, this women's event. And I wrote out, and by the way, I had to speak behind a podium, which I can't do. I can't do. And that's why I was just like, like a robot, right?
Right, because it can find you.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can't stand this. But I was so thankful that I had that podium, because this was the first time I was letting any holes poke through that armor, as I'm telling this story and being vulnerable. And just like you're saying, I think sometimes it's competition. Sometimes it's, I don't want them to see me sweat, right? I don't want them to see me, this, especially as women, as we kind of, try to climb the corporate ladder and all that stuff, in those worlds. Mm-hmm. But I thought, okay, well, I'm kind of protected behind this thing. And as soon as I was done, people came up and they were crying and going, oh my God, my dad was an alcoholic too. And I understand. And that's a moment that it clicked for me, just like it clicked for you. Is like, wait a minute here, this is a good thing. So talk a little bit about vulnerability, because you and I both coach business owners. Mm-hmm. And I know that some of the business owners that I talk, they go, we just want to talk about our product. And I go, nobody cares about the product.
No.
They care about the person behind the product. That's why everybody loves Elon Musk. It's not about the Tesla or whatever else he does to make billions. It's like, who's the man, right? And so tell us a little bit about what you experience as a coach of business owners, and why. It's threefold. What do you experience? Why do you think the business owners don't want to share this? And what are you telling people that makes them really realize, hey, I have to stop being selfish. I have to share this with the world?
Yeah. So when I first shared my story the first time, Now, keep in mind, our stories are going to always evolve. So depending on where you're at in your business, you may need to figure out a different story.
Mhm.
But when I first shared my story the first time, my business was gotten pretty big, and I did not know all of my members, clients. I had relationships with my leadership team. And so by me sharing that story, it created a vulnerability because I was more transparent. And my clients, the members that never really met me, felt more loyal to the organization and to my mission because they got to know a little bit about who I was and what my mission is. And so as a business owner, what we need to do is realize, anybody can sell our widget, right? It just is us that sells it a little different. It's us that makes um, uh, our experience is what we bring to what we have that makes us better than anybody else to the right person.
Yeah. 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 I love that. And, so I want to drive that home just a little bit more. So you experience people not wanting to be vulnerable for a variety of reasons. And maybe you've pegged one, this is why they don't want it, but, for a variety of reasons, perhaps. But what are you telling to them to help them to go to that, that tipping point of, oh, aha, I got it. Now I understand why I have to do that.
Well, so whatever we have that we're sharing to be able to support others, whether we're selling a product or a service, I'm sure that you have competition, right? Like how many business coaches are out there? How many publishers are out there? We all have competition. And so our story is what is our uniqueness. It's like a snowflake, right? There are no two snowflakes. And so if we really own our story and get it out there, it's what we're going to use to attract the people that we really want to work with, because those people are the ones that we can make the biggest impact with, because we've been there, we've done it, we've got the badge, and we know how to be able to help them get through what they're going through faster. Because just like we said, nobody cares about, well, with our story, which is a little different what you said, but nobody cares about my story. They just want to get to know me through my story to see if I can help them have a better story. Because that's what it's all about, like how I can help them have a better life. And our story is really what's going to help them like recognize if we're the right person that could maybe do that.
Yeah. And especially, driving again this in is especially when, your story aligns with the problem that your client has.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It has to align with that same problem. So it would be kind of weird. Let's take like, I know this HVAC guy, right, who has a HVAC company that I coach. And his story is about, boats, and he loves boats and stuff. But what does that have to do with HVAC? I mean, it's like, why do you want to do that? Were you frozen as a child and you said, by God, nobody's ever going to do it? But there's a disconnect, right?
Right.
In the story. So do you have any, and I know you do, story activation secrets that you could share on it's kind of like, remember we were kids and we had that one column and the other, and we had to draw lines to connect things.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that, don't you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So a lot of people teach you want to have the most dramatic story of your life. Like right now, my divorce story, though it was dramatic, isn't the story that I want to use. It worked great because I shared principles of how I got through that.
Yeah.
But the story that I want to use now is completely different. And so determining your story, and for me, I call it your signature story. It's the story that positions you to be the expert to help the person that you are supposed to help, your ideal client, because you've been there, you've done it. And so if you have a story that's completely different, it's really a matter of maybe making a metaphor out of that story that can connect the dots to it. But bottom line, if you're passionate about what you do, there has to be some story that got you to get in that line of work. And that's a story we want to share. And then we want to be able to share it as colorful as we can, to, get the interest of our audience, but then also share it in a way that is that will really position us to be the expert.
Yeah. I love that you said using a metaphor, right? Because maybe there's not a connection. I'm sitting here going boating, HVAC. I don't know. There's some condensation and water in it, trying to figure it out.
No.
But and I'm not helping him create a story, but I'm just telling you, it's so funny. Yeah. And but I love that you said creating some type of a metaphor for it. And these days we can use AI to help us with a metaphor that says, here's a story I have, here's a product I sell, what's a metaphor I could create, and that might help us. But is there an assessment or an exercise that we can do that asks us questions, like when was the first time you had a sale? When was the best, sale client that you had? What was the worst client you had? What'd you learn from it? Is that how you suggest developing stories to try to find them an alignment, or do you do something totally different?
Yeah. So I know that it's really hard for us to do with our own story.
Yeah.
Like, even me, I could talk to anybody and be able to, I could talk to your HVAC guy, like come up with the right story, right? But for me, because I have so much of my life, everything is important to me. So it's hard for me to pull out the rest and come up with what could be the best story. And so if I haven't come up with that secret assessment plan yet, of how to help others do that. If I did, I think that would be like super brilliant. But it's just really recognizing your client's journey. Where are they stuck, right? And honestly, the biggest problem entrepreneurs I feel have is they want to help everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And you probably see that. Like we have to niche down. We have to get really clear. And even if it's a process, right? You have to get to the point where, I want to help Karen Jones and all the Karen Joneses out there, because that is my ideal client. And if you get really clear on that and her journey, then you figure out what part of your life is like a mirror image of that journey. Like, so you can be the guide to help her get through her journey faster.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. So tell me a little bit about when you talk about stories. I know you're also a publisher, so let's talk about that. So for you watching, or listening, right? If you are saying, well, hey, I think I need to develop a story, and why would we want to come to you for publishing of that story? What's the purpose behind that?
Yeah, well, our mess becomes our message.
Mm-hmm.
And the more places we can get that out there in the world, the better. And especially if it's a consistent message, because that's going to get us to become more referable. Because if a million people hear the same message and one person hears the same message multiple times, they're going to recognize you as the expert in the one thing. And so writing your story, even if you never print it, is an important thing to do, because it's a growing process and it helps you get clarity around your story. That I believe, write your story so you can publish it in a co-authored book. That's not the best result. I mean, it's not the best way to publish, but I think it's the best first way to publish. Get that story out there as a chapter. It's easy, it's fast, it's economical. You get a lot of great benefits. Then take that story and use it as your signature talk, because it's basically the same thing. Your story, 3 teaching points, and a call to action. Use it as your signature talk, put it on your website, use it for social media. Like, just use your story and vary parts of that same story in multiple ways to get out there and attract your ideal clients.
Yeah. I love you saying this. And look, I think it's a great way to get your toe in, dip your toe into publishing, dip your toe into whether or not you want to share your expertise in the form of a book, which is so important, because everybody needs something, whether it's a pamphlet, an e-report, you need something that shows your expertise in the world, to help attract team members, to help attract clients. I think all of that, is super important. But let's dissect that just a little bit, because the person who's listening is a business owner, right? And they're saying, well, I don't know if I need to write a book, and I don't know if I need to, this, that, and the other. But the bottom line is, and listen closely to this, the bottom line is, you have to present and you have to speak to people in order to get business. So it's whether you're doing presentations, whether you're doing something in a chamber meeting or a charity event, you have to speak to people. So how do we, what are some of the, and I don't even know if it's a tactic, but maybe there's some insight that you can provide. So if you write this chapter in a book and you get clear on what that story is, now you're in front of a group of people. How much of the story do you suggest that they tell if they, let's say, and right? We all know, hey, you get 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15, 10, 5, and 2 minutes to speak. We get all of those, right? And that's
Yep.
part of the signature story or signature presentation that we all do. But how do you chop up that story to really hit the best points when you say there's maybe 3 points to that story?
Yeah. Okay. So when I coach people to write their story is the journey, like where they started, start with this, high impact moment, and then go a little bit of backstory, and then the journey of where they were in the beginning and to where they ended. Then they share 3 tips. Now there's ways that you can share the tips. You can ingrain them in the story journey, or just at the end say, hey, and I'd like to share these 3 tips. These are things that you can actually apply to your life right now. And then of course have a call to action. And so it's just a simple, intro, body, and conclusion, kind of a process. It's not complicated, but if you write that in a 3,000 word story, then you go to AI, and that can be your best friend to chop it up and have every version you want, plus pull out keywords, plus have it come up with quotes, right? Any kind of a bumper sticker phrase that we can have that we can pull out of our story and use it in all kinds of things are going to be important. And so AI, once you have that foundation, you can use AI to create so many assets to be able to use whenever you need to get out there, either online, in print, or on a stage, from a 1-minute infomercial to a 30-minute talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I just wanted to ask the question so that people who are listening are saying,
doesn't have to be hard.
I get it. Yeah. Oh, I get it. Because I've heard people, and I'm just cringing the whole time, because they're going, I want to give you 3 quick things. And so one is the whole 15 minutes, and then they never get to 2 and 3. And so they never get to their call to action if they have one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I wanted you to just share, exactly how, you're taking care of that for people. So now, we started off with the fact that you had this community that you developed, and I know that you've transcended into, coaching and into publishing for people. What does the future look like for you in your business?
I love that. So I, this year, launched a new program. It's a 7-figure book launch program, and we still are a self-publishing support team, but we're using a book as a mechanism to go out and grow your business. Yeah. Because people tend to think that our books are going to make us money.
No. Well, they do.
They do, but not a lot.
You think, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a great marketing budget, you can make a lot of money, but generally you're spending a lot as well. And so the book is, for what we do with our clients, is it becomes a lead generation machine. And so it's really one of the final steps of our process. We create this kind of like a Kickstarter campaign that becomes a self-funded ad machine. So once you got all of the rest of the pieces in place, and you just turn that baby on, and then your book is the tool to bring you ongoing leads.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, I'm sure you do this, but I'll just share a couple of things. So, if you're listening and you have a book and it's been sitting on the shelf and it's getting dusted off, and right, you have to dust it off and everything, or it's sitting in boxes. One of the things I do, and then I'd love for you to share something you do as well. One of the things I do is that every place I travel, I bring at least one of my books. Yeah. And sometimes it depends on where I'm going and what the conference is, but sometimes I bring, now look, you've been in 15 books, but I don't know what the breakdown is, collaboration versus your own, that kind of thing. But I have 4 books of my own, and I've been in 22 books total. So it depends on the situation. If I have extra books laying around, if I'm going to a women only event, I might drop one of the women. I have a book called 6-Figure Chicks that I was in, and Powerful She that I was in. So I might grab that one. Sometimes I just grab one of each of my own books. Yeah. But I make sure that I don't leave with those books. Then I'm getting them into people's hands, right? Yeah. So that's one quick strategy that I'm using, to say, hey, I wrote a book, and, based on what you're telling me, could I come and speak at your company? Maybe we could have a coaching call, whatever the case may be. But maybe there's a strategy that you have as well to demonstrate this lead gen, that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great organic way to, share your books, depending on your focus. If you're a health coach and you got a book on health coaching, every time you go to the doctor, leave your book in the waiting room. Anytime you go to the dentist, leave your book in the waiting room. I've seen people, or I've personally gone to the airport, put my book in the bookstore shelf at the airport. or leave it sitting
I
in
have
a
too.
chair.
That is so funny. I'm like, is anybody looking? Hey,
Yeah,
by the way, I've done that at Airbnbs too, because
oh
I
yes.
tend to stay at a lot of Airbnbs. And so I
Yes, that's
bring an extra book.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
any place you can. Yeah, bring your books, but no, never bring them home with you ever.
Ever. I don't want to carry them home. I want to put my gifts and my shopping
Yes,
stuff in there.
absolutely. Yeah, and then make sure you have calls to action in your book. That
Yeah.
is a critical piece. And if your book doesn't have that and it's still relevant based on your subject matter, go back and do a reprint. Get
Yeah.
some endorsements, add some calls to action. You have to have a next step for your people. Otherwise, it's really kind of like a useless asset out there.
Yeah. Yeah. What I do is I insert, right?
Yeah.
I haven't inserted two or three different things that I insert, but I love that. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So that's taking your book around. What is something else you've done?
To use my book
Yeah,
as
as a
a
lead gen during your
yeah.
speeches, or
Mhm.
I'm sure you can give me 1,000 different things. You do.
Yeah, I mean, you always love to have when you're doing a talk, like the first 5 people that take action also get the book. Like there's so many things you can do to create bonuses and little extra things. People love having that,
Yeah.
especially if you're doing talks. I know I see speakers a lot, and quite often they don't have books. And when you see a speaker that you really love, you're like, you want to take a little bit of them home with you. Like you're like, oh, that was so
Mhm.
good. I want more goodness.
Yeah.
And so one of the great things about printing on demand through Amazon is if you are speaking somewhere, you don't have to lug your books with you. You can actually just go on Amazon, order, 10
Yeah.
or 100 copies and have them shipped right to the hotel or to the speaking location.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, for the 100. I don't carry 100 books. No,
Yeah.
there's no.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Of
All I'm
course,
doing
not
is
for a
trying to
few.
make room for the goodies I'm going to buy. That's really all I care
Well,
about.
that's it. When you go places, you put the books in so that way you have room for stuff to come home. So I get that.
And sometimes other people's books, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's a, really good point. I definitely use it as a speaker, but let's be clear about this. We're using the word speaker, but if you're an owner of a company, you are a speaker. You
Mhm.
speak to your team, you speak to other people, you're a speaker. So let's be
Mhm.
clear about that. But where you can use it as a sales mechanism too is like, hey, I want to, come here and speak. This is my
Yeah.
fee. Oh, we can't afford it. Well, I can drop it down if you'll buy X amount of books, and you give them a
Yes.
discount and you send them all, on their way. And
Yeah.
I,
Absolutely.
I think that's really good. And look, I think one other suggestion that I just want to share real quick is that if you're trying to expand your business and you want to get in front, let's just say you're I don't know why I'm on HVAC today, but okay, let's just say you're a roofer. We'll just go. Well, I'm still in home services. Okay. Well, anyway, let's say you're an insurance company, right?
There we
You're
go.
a property and casualty insurance company, and you want to meet more real estate agents, for example,
Yeah.
and you want to get in front of those real estate agents. You can get the opportunity to speak at an event by sending your book in advance.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, even
And
if you're just wanting to get in front of a maker for a sales conversation, not necessarily even to speak, you send them the book and say, hey, chapter 5, page 6, I think is like a really key thing that I think would be great for you. I thought of you when I,
yeah,
of course, not when you wrote it, but I thought of you
yeah.
and I wanted you to know about this. And, if you send somebody an Amazon package, their assistant is
Open.
probably not going to open it. It's going to
Oh,
go directly to the person that
yeah.
you want it to go to. And it's a
Yeah.
great way to get in front of that person.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I've used that for universities, to speak at universities. I've used that for a multitude of things. Yeah. I think that's great. Okay. So let's switch gears for just a second and talk about business. When you started your business and now looking back on it, you have your big rear view mirror and you're looking back. What are some of the things that you wish you would have done? Because remember, this is business on the vine. We want to hear it through the grapevine.
Yes.
What did I do that I maybe didn't do wrong, but I wish I would have done more of? Maybe it's
Oh,
wrong too. It's up to you.
yeah. Well, my first thing I will say is, I started this networking organization for women, and I loved it. Really poured my heart and soul into it. It lasted for about 22 years, but I wish I would have let it go sooner.
Like that
Because
white knuckle.
yeah, let it go. Like I loved it, but I kind of outgrew it and I lost my passion for it, but I felt
Yeah.
obligated to stick with it. COVID, fortunately, was one of the things that was a blessing and a curse because it kind of forced me to let it go.
Yeah.
Our in-person chapters didn't really survive well in the areas that, you know, we couldn't meet in person. So that was kind of the beginning of the slow closing. And so I feel that I could have probably done it intentionally earlier, because I knew my new mission, but I was wearing too many hats, doing too many things, and I wasn't doing anything well.
You were being an entrepreneur,
I was
right?
being an entrepreneur, but I was very unfocused because
Right.
I had basically 3 businesses going on at the same time that I was too much a part of to allow me to do any of them well.
Yeah. So if, so someone who's watching and listening says, how would I know? Because you now know you white knuckled this, right? You held on to it too long. You said you lost the passion, but how would someone know? How would they increase their awareness and then start saying, wait a minute, I don't know. I'm thinking, when a dog gets to the point where it's dying and has more bad days than it has good days, and you're getting there. Is that it? Is that where we need to increase the awareness and say, am I getting up and it's time to make the donuts? And I'm like, oh my God. Or am I springing out of bed? So what are some things that you share with your clients on how do you know when it's time to let go?
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that we all have a purpose. And if we are waking up every day and we don't feel excited about what we're doing, I know for women, a lot of women spend a lot of their life helping other people accomplish their dreams while their own personal dream kind of stays in the back burner. And so if you feel that you're not fulfilled, right, then think about what you need to do to change it. But maybe you are doing the right thing. Maybe you kind of feel like you got on the right path, but you're not excited about it anymore. So it's just, you have to rededicate and just be all in or find something else, because the world is too busy. There's so many options out there. If we're not all in on what we do, our clients, our prospects can see that, and they're not going to be all in to follow us. Right. If
Yeah.
we're not all in, we can't expect like a little Pied Piper train of people, following us. And that's really what it's about, right? We want to attract people and build a community, build a tribe. So, and create a mission.
Yeah, I think that's really important. What motto do you live by, or is there, principle that you live by?
Oh, I'm still kind of at the do unto others is what you would want them to do unto you, which that's why we have our risk reverse guarantee. It's like you pay as you grow. I just feel really passionate about that because I spent a lot of money with coaches that didn't get me results. I was just like, okay, I got more money gone, but my business isn't growing. And so I think that's a big thing for me is just, there's a fine line between supporting and dragging people. And so you can't drag people through, but if they're doing the work, I believe for me, I need to do everything I can to help them succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the old, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And then I always go, but did you ask them if they were thirsty?
Right. If they just wanted a sip, right? Maybe you're more passionate than they are, and you can't change.
Oh yeah.
that.
You can't want it more than they do. Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. So I know you have a gift for our listeners. You have a gift for them. Tell us a little bit about the gift that you have, and we'll have that in the show notes as well.
Yes. So one of the things that I kind of put together, now there's a lot of ways to create a story and to create a story journey or not timeline, a story journey. But I found a story path, a seven stage story path that I think works really well to make the process super simple of creating that story, which is all great, but you still have to actually do the work to write it. And so what I've created is a set of super prompts and a custom GPT that if you bullet point the pieces of each phase of that journey and you feed it into my GPT using the prompts I'm sharing, it will help you put your whole 3,000 word story together in 7 different sections. So that way it all blends together. Now you have to go in and make some adjustments because sometimes, AI makes some liberties in what it believes the truth is. So you have to go back and zhuzh it, as Molly Mahoney would say, but it will really be, so far it's been an amazing thing for people to be able to do that process to put their story together quickly.
Yeah, I love it too. And one of the things I learned is that I uploaded a bunch of articles. I uploaded podcast interviews like that, this side and the side where I'm a guest on. And I uploaded presentations and I uploaded my books. And I allowed chat to learn who I am and learn my voice. And so the results are so much better,
Oh, yeah.
because it really does use some of my buzzwords, which I think is
Yeah. Isn't
amazing.
it great? Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to season you have to get it set up, which takes time. But if
Yep.
you initially, when you get started in Chat GPT, if you do some of those things to season it, it really will make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any stone that I've left unturned that you would like to talk
Ooh.
about today?
Mm-mm-mm. No, I mean, I think that's a big thing is, with your business, no matter what you're doing in your business, I think it's really important if you want to go to that next step is to really own your story. Because I find a lot of people kind of get stuck a little bit in their business. And so if you are able to figure out your story and then think about, all right, what's my next better story? It allows you to kind of expand into what's next.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing that to us as well. It's been such a pleasure, Christy, having so much fun with you. And
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'm going to just let you everybody know, right, that we met on the podcasters cruise. That's where we met. And I've talked about the marketers cruise, the podcasters cruise, the San Juan social cruise. I've talked about all these cruises. I love these cruises for conferences and to be able to meet people. So think about it for yourself. That's something you could do. And who knows, we may have links in those, but just go to Podcasters Cruise, Marketers Cruise. I don't really need to have you go through a link that I have or anything. Just go there. But yeah, I think it's really important because look at the relationship that we're creating, and we're both learning,
Yes.
about each other and our style. And that's what business is all about. That's how you hear about business on the grapevine is you start talking to other business people and finding out what's working, what isn't working, what counsel do you have for me? What advice do you have for me? So we appreciate all of your counsel and all of your advice and all of your contribution that you gave to us today. So thank you again for being with us, Christy. We sure appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jen. I really enjoyed being on the show and getting to know you in the process. And I look forward to having you on my show next.
I can't wait.
I
I can't
know.
wait. It's going to be exciting. So thank you again for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us on Business on the Vine. If you found value in today's conversation and would like additional support, go to supportfromjen.com. Remember, the best ideas are always discovered on the vine. So keep innovating, stay inspired, and continue to grow.